Welcome, dude and dudettes, to our first episode of 80s Rock Wisdom. On our first episode, we're going to take a look at Van Halen. Van Halen's biggest hit isn't only a synth-driven anthem, it hides one of the most unexpected grounded lines of the entire 80s rock era. You've got to roll with the punches to get to what's real. Today on 80s Rock Wisdom, we're breaking down the meaning behind this lyric and the wild moment in Van Halen's history when it was written. In 1984, Van Halen was at the peak of their powers and on the edge of falling apart. Eddie had just introduced keyboards into the band's sound, something that caused real tension with David. Roth wanted to keep things pure hard rock. Eddie wanted to evolve. Despite the internal friction, the band was unstoppable. Their album 1984 was a monster hit, and Jump became their first and only #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100. It was everywhere, MTV, radio, arenas, you name it, it was there. Jump was a major shift for Van Halen. Instead of opening with Eddie's signature guitar, it starts with that iconic synth riff. Bright, bold, and totally different from anything they've done before. David wrote the lyrics, inspired partly by a news story about a man threatening to jump off a building. But Roth didn't want to write a dark song. He wanted to flip the idea into something motivational. Something that said, always bet on yourself. And that's where the quote comes in. This line is classic rock, swaggering, philosophical, and surprisingly practical. Life hits you, plans fall apart, people push back, but if you keep moving, keep adapting, keep rolling with the punches, you eventually reach something authentic. It's a lyric about resilience, but delivered with that trademark Van Halen sound. In 1984, this line wasn't just a catchy phrase, it was basically the band's reality. Van Halen was navigating internal conflict, changing musical directions, and the pressure of massive fame. Eddie was pushing boundaries. Roth was pushing back. The band was taking punches from every direction. Critics, each other, the industry, and yet out of all that chaos came one of the most iconic songs of the decade. This lyric almost feels like Roth talking to himself, or maybe to the whole band. Decades later, this line still resonates because it's universal. Life rarely goes the way we planned. You get knocked down, you get blindsided, you get humbled. But if you keep rolling with the punches, you eventually find what's real. Your purpose, your people, and your path. It's a message wrapped up in one of the most upbeat songs ever recorded. To me, this lyric has a lot of meaning. I was a junior in high school when it came out. I was struggling in school. All my friends and I had was rock and roll. And when you hear a lyric like that, you find it's very inspirational. And that's what it was for me. So I'm sure, like many, it helped me get through a lot of rough times. It's crazy how some of the most powerful wisdom comes from the loudest places. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today's deep dive into Van Halen's Jump and one of the most surprisingly grounded lines of the 80s. If you want more hidden gems like this, make sure you give me a follow and subscribe and stick around for a while. Next time on 80s Metal Wisdom, we're going to jump into a quote from the Scorpions. Till then, keep your horns up and rock on!